Pierce and Bell at home. We'll be doing a little dry brushing to highlight and glazing and stamping with a new redesign with Prima perfectly aligned stamps, which I'm a total fan of. We are selling out. We've got new shipment coming tomorrow, so I'm excited. All right, so I previously painted this piece in one of my lives and I really wasn't feeling it. It just kind of was to me. All right, so I already started painting this. This is Queen's Court. So here's my color palette, real simple. Queen's Court right here, kind of that blue-gray. And then we've got Angelic, which has got a slight tint of a creamy, tiny bit of yellow. Not yellow, just a tiny bit. Creamy color there, so it's not really gray, but it's really pretty and I love it. Queen's Court is beautiful. Angelic is beautiful. So this is already base coated in 2 coats of the Queen's Court. So it is a blue-gray to it. And what I'm gonna go ahead, I'm trying to decide where I wanna go first. So what we'll do, because I've already done the drawer, and we'll go down to that in a minute, but we'll go ahead and do the dry brushing of the Angelic here on the top part. What I wanna do is just kind of accent and highlight all of our carving, and it seemed kind of plain on these panels, so I added some Would You Bend moldings. These are 1388-9, so it's a pair, so it just felt kind of empty right here and I wanted to add something to it. And by the way, I'm on the floor already and I'm 6'3", so if I've forgotten something, there's no going back. We cannot get off the floor, not on camera. All right, so just giving you that disclaimer. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and, let's see. We're gonna go ahead and do our, like I said, we're gonna do our dry brushing. I've got my Angelic, and I'm just gonna shake it up a bit. If you guys have questions, all the questions, drop them in the comment. All right, so what I'm gonna do, I've got my, this is a little nylon cheap chip brush I have. I like the nylon. It lasts a lot longer and it's gonna do what I need it to do. It's a nice firm brushes here. So I've got this loaded. Now that's too much paint to put on. So I've got this little paper, like painter's paper down, and I'm just kind of brushing it off until I got barely any paint on my brush. And you can use paper towels, what have you. So now I've got hardly any paint on it, okay? All right, so now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get kind of comfortable here. All right, so make sure you guys can see. There we go. All right, so like I said, I just wanna hit my highlights. So I'm just going to hit those. All right, can you guys see that? Okay, good. All right. There's a lot of subtleties that I'm doing with this piece that necessarily you might not notice on camera, but it is definitely layers, and you'll definitely notice it in person. So, and then when all those layers or details are all put together, it just kind of helps make that piece pop. So I'm already happier with this, how it's coming out. So I like the color is much softer and more soothing and fits this piece better. I'm gonna also order hardware instead of repurposing this one. It just isn't doing it for me. And I have a vision in my mind. So this one, we did have, if I could find the right finishing nails, I did have a antique drawer pull that might fit here. So if I do have that, that might be something I already will have. So we'll see. So I'm adding, because I want this to be pretty solid here. So I'm just kind of filling that in right there on those little solid parts, because those are big swirly whirls. So we just want to kind of get that here. We are going to go back and glaze this. Now I can't glaze this today because now I've already painted fresh paint on it. When you glaze, you definitely want to wait about I would say about 8 hours. So usually for me, that's going to be 24 hours, sometimes longer. I do run a shop 6 days a week, so it does become kind of a balancing act getting to come back and paint. So that is always kind of a challenge. I know some of you guys probably have challenges on getting all your paint projects done. So I know, I feel your pain. And there's days I want to be here till like midnight painting, and I know I gotta go home, you know, because I get hangry. I gotta eat. So, let's see. Just gonna go ahead and get all of that. And I haven't refilled my brush. So we're just keep on going with this dry brush. Again, the color is Angelic. And it's just a very soft, subtle color. But it's enough of a pop that it makes me happy. It's pleasing to the eye. Okay, a little bit more up here. All right. Get going in that. And any stiff, as long as your brush, like this isn't really bending much, so as long as you have a nice stiff bristle on your brush, you can, it's perfect for dry brushing and kind of highlighting. I could, technically, if you wanted to, you could do like we have, from Redesign with Prima, we have a decor wax called Old White. You could probably do that. But I kind of enjoy just a little dry brushing. It's just it's just one of those things I like. And we also did some embellishments on the side with the paint, with the stamp. We used the same color. All right, so I'm gonna refill now, just a little bit. Okay. All right. Get this guy a little bit more. Okay, just gonna go back over it a little bit more. And I'm not being gentle, I'm not being delicate, I'm just kind of putting it on there. So you don't have to be gentle. And if you make a mistake and you get some outside the box, it's okay, let it dry and just paint right over it. You will, it's just paint. Like I said, I wasn't happy with what I painted this, so I repainted it. So that's the beauty of paint. You can just paint over it. All right? So it's never a problem. Never, never a problem. I think that's why I enjoy painting, because you can transform a piece really fairly quickly. And then if you don't like it, it's not a big deal. You can just transform it again. All right, so let's go ahead and hit these. All right, we're gonna get those. Now these have a lot of detail in them. Okay, and when I glaze these, I won't be glazing these tonight, but it'll definitely give a lot of texture and pop to these pieces. A lot of the glaze is going to settle in all of these crevices, making it look like it's been there forever, that they're old. And that's kind of what I want. I don't really like pieces that, you know, oh look, I just bought this from, you know, the store and it just came off a boat in China, you know, kind of thing. You know what Dustin always says? He's like, yeah, you don't want anything new. It is fairly new, but we're making it look more vintage or even antique-y. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and get this section and get on there. All right. Okay, let's see. Am I happy with how that is? Get a little bit more over here. And it's just kind of one of those things you kind of step back, take a peek at it, decide if you want more or, you know, not anymore. If you felt like it got too dark, you could let that completely dry. Then you could take, basically dry brush the Queen's Court right over this. So if you felt like you got a little too much, but you wanted to just soften it a bit, you can just take your dry brush of Queen's Court and go over it. But always wait till it's totally dry. Otherwise, you're gonna have a muddy mess. And you don't want that. I'm just making this a little more bright. I know as it dries, it's not as noticeable because it's a thin, thin layer here. All right. Okay, let me see. This little guy right here needs a little doodad on him. All right, so I think I'm pretty happy with that. may come back to this tomorrow and take a look at it and decide, do I want to add any more? I'm going to add a little bit of white in there because I don't want it to be totally glazed out in there. Okay. All right, perfect. Perfect. So easy peasy, you guys. This is something you can do, and you truly can't mess that up. So pretty easy. All right, so there's all of our highlighted with the dry brushing. Again, we've got Queen's Court as a base, and the top is Angelic. All right, so now what I want to do is, let's see, we're going to go ahead and put the lid on this real briefly because we're going to come back to Angelic here in a jiffy. All right, so actually I'm going to pull out this dresser, this part, I think, maybe. Yep, okay. All right, so I'm going to try to show you guys this portion. It's going to be a little harder, so I'm going to kind of flip this a little bit. All right. All right, so I hope you guys can see this. Yes, very much like Wedgwood. That's kind of, I think that might be what I was going for in my head. So this one has been painted. I did the white on it earlier, the Angelic on that earlier. And I want this just a little bit dirty. Nothing major, no craziness. I thought about Van Dyke Brown, all of the colors. I think brown sugar. I tried the black chiffon was going to be too dark. So I ended up going with weathered wood, and I really like that it's subtle and soft. It makes my piece just a hint dirty. So you may not notice it as much, but for me, it's just a hint dirty. Now it will settle in some of these cracks a little more. So we're going to start. Okay, let me get that camera to kind of move a little bit. There we go. So we're going to start down here. And I'm going to get into those crevices, because that's where I really want that to be. And I'm just kind of jamming it in there. Okay, I'm going to go over here and jam this one down here. And this is Weathered Wood Couture Glaze. All right, so now I'm going to go ahead and spread it across the whole piece. I'm going to get kind of in those edges. Jam in those edges. Okay, get a little bit more. And if you guys haven't used a couture glaze and you're kind of like, I don't know how to glaze, I'm a terrible glazer. Y'all, I'm a terrible waxer. This is easy peasy stuff, okay? So if you used other glazes before, it's probably the glaze. It wasn't necessarily you. Go ahead and give it a try. I think you'll be happy. It's super duper easy. I've dubbed myself the lazy painter because I don't like to do things that are going to take way too much time to dry or time to work on, you know, all that good stuff. All right, so what I'm doing now is just kind of wiping it back. I've got an old, I've got bag of rags. So make sure if you use a bag of rags, because what they do is launder all those little t-shirts, cut them up after they're laundered. So sometimes you can get some little peels or lint. So just kind of, I usually shake these out a bit. All right, so let's go ahead and get in this little crevice. We're just going to get all of these parts all the way around. And I just keep turning my cloth so that it's going to get saturated. Okay, I'll go all the way around. And one thing I've noticed, okay, so a real quick, when you're doing glazing, don't put it on and walk away and never come back. You've got to wipe it back. You don't wipe it back an hour later, you kind of wipe it back like I did. I get my small section done and then I start wiping it back. If you leave it, it's going to dry like paint and it's going to dry just like you brushed it on. So you got to work it out. You got to move it, take off the excess. Okay, so I just, that forewarning, don't paint it and leave it on. Don't let the doorbell ring and you're in the middle of this. You gotta let the doorbell ring. You have to let the phone ring. You gotta get your glaze done. You got a little bit of time, but you don't got that much time. Because if you're like me, you'll start talking to somebody and then you're like, oh man, it's been 2 hours and I left my glaze on my piece and I didn't do what I was supposed to do with it. Yep. All right, so I'm getting these little areas because I don't want too much, because the weathered wood will dry just a shade darker. So if you have some excess in your little areas, it will dry a little bit darker. And you can always come back and put a second coat on. So if your first coat was not dark enough, just let it dry overnight. Come back and put a second coat. If you try to put a second coat of glaze when your glaze is not quite dry enough, all it's going to do is pull up your original glaze, and you'll have what I call bald spots. And let's face it, bald spots aren't good for anybody, including your furniture. All right. Okay, let me get that little smooch. All right. So I'm pretty happy. Like I said, you guys probably aren't going to really see a whole lot. Let's see if I can get this down. Oh, there's a little spot that's just too much grungy in there. Too much of that weathered wood. I don't want it to look too bad, too grungy in there. All right. Okay, so I'm gonna bring this up. Okay. So you guys see that in there? So it just gives it a little bit of dirty. I just wanted it to be a little bit dirtier. Not perfectly, like I said, not perfectly painted. So we'll let that dry. All right, so like I said, if I want to do another layer on there, again, just let it dry and you can put your second layer on. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and close up my lid. So we'll do this, but again, since we'll do this part, but since I just put the angelic on it, what will happen is it'll basically, the glaze will smear off my beautiful highlights and we'll be really sad about it. All right, so what I'm going to do next is the stamping. All right, let me turn this to the side. And when we're done with this side, I'll show you my finished side. And it's not perfect and I'm a-okay with it. So if you want a much more perfect, uniform look, you might want to do a stencil. I like the kind of patchy old vintage wallpaper look, so that's why I'm going with a stamp. You can do, now this one is one that does repeat and matches, so like I said, it will, you may notice it if I do it like I did on the other side. Of course, I'll show you the other side too. So let me get, I've got a high density foam roller. It's a well used one. Now you can use ink. I am opting to use paint because I can. And we are using the Imperial Crackle. So this is the Imperial Crackle. It comes with a crackle on, and it also comes with this really pretty damask. So this is one of my favorites. Now this is what it's like. Bendy, you can bend it and put it on whatever surface. So your surface could be kind of curvy. Now they do have the little blocks that you can put this on, and you can have the block to press it. But first, let me get this taped off because I don't want any of my stamp getting on. And I kind of like to tape off, or that way you don't get any stamp on this part, because I don't need it there. I don't need to stamp the rest of this piece. But you know what, if I did on accident, it's okay, because you can go back and just fix that, touch it up, all that good stuff. All right, so let's go ahead and get this taped off. All right, more tape. Okay. All right. Ooh, better make that a better line. There we go. That's what happens when you're trying to do this kind of sideways bent on the floor. See, when you guys are doing this, you'll be able to be right straight on with your piece. I'm just kind of all crooked. Let's see. That way you guys can see what's going on. All right. Okay, doke. Last one. Like I said, if you get it on your piece, not a big deal. You can go back and touch up. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay this flat on my surface down here. Now I'm working on the floor, so I've got a little piece of paper down, little builder's paper here, and I've got it down so I can have a nice flat surface. And I'm just going to load up my roller with paint, and we're using the angelic paint, so I've got my roller loaded up here, and all I'm going to do is we're just going to paint that, okay? So we're just going to do a real thin layer of paint on the whole thing. So if you were stamping, you would do essentially stamp block of the whole thing. And when you're done, just wash this out with soap and water. I got it kind of messy today because I was trying to do this today. And so some of it kind of got hard on there. But Baby Wipe to the rescue, got it all off. So no big deal. All right, so now what we're gonna do is gonna take this and get it right there in that corner. All right, so I'm gonna try to do this so you guys can see it. All right, so now we've got it on there. So what you're gonna do is just kind of lightly press. You're not pressing hard. You don't want to press hard. Hey there. Just kind of give it a little tap. I can't press hard because this thing will roll away. I put it on wheels. All right, so we're going to give it a little bit of a press here. Nothing too hard. Kind of let the stamping do its thing. And same thing if you have ink, you do the same thing. Okay. All right. Moment of truth, right? Let me get all of that on there. All right, so it's kind of rolling away on me, you guys. All right, so let's see. Woo! Ta-da! Woo! This is the second time I've done this today. All right, so love how it came out. So now we align it to the next stop. So that's kind of what I like about this, where it's a little bit easier than for me than a stencil, because stencils I have to wait for it to kind of dry. Just a little bit. I don't wait that long, but depending on how messy you're getting, I guess you might have to wait a little while. Let's see. And I'm putting a nice, like I said, even coat with my foam roller. All right, so this is going to be the hard one for me because I have to kind of line this up best I can at a weird angle. All right, so here we go. So that's what I like about this. You can see through it to line up with your piece. So we're going to go ahead and line it up. Okay. Alrighty. Hopefully this will come out good. And if not, you know what you can just paint right back over this. It is definitely not the end of the world on this. So I'm just making sure that I have this. Now you can use a brayer. We have one in one of my drawers for the classroom. I've never even opened it out of the box. Maybe I should open that one day so we could try it out. Basically, you just bray right over it. You can use, like I said, the stamp blocks. Put the stamp block on and just boom, and you're done. So let's see. All right. Bam. Ooh, I like this side better than my first side. So what you do, I guess we'll go ahead and do this part because this is the hard part right here. So I'll go ahead and do that little section real quick. What I'm going to do is kind of wipe off some of it because I don't really need the paint on the whole thing. So I'm just going to kind of load my paint on the side. Let's see. And it's going to be that side. So I'm just going to kind of wipe this off so I don't have so much paint and I have a little bit more to hold on to. Now this part's going to be a little bit harder because I've got the bend on the piece, but not a big deal. All right, so again, load my little roller up, boom. We're going to get some paint on just my little kind of half, just half-ish. Yeah, not even half. All right. Okay, so now, y'all ready for this? Okay, so we're gonna just get in this little corner right here. So I gotta kind of bend this sucker in there. So I'm gonna line up, line it up. All right, now this is the kind of part that gets kind of, I wish I had like another hand to just kind of like push that down in there, but I don't. So, ooh, and I moved it, but that's okay. So I see I have a little line there. I may go back and do a little touch up, but it's okay, because what I'm gonna do when I'm done is I'm gonna finish this out, and then I'm not gonna finish on camera because you guys already saw how it works. But again, like I said, it's not a perfect thing. If you want it perfect, stencil probably the better way. But I want this to look like old wallpaper that's kind of fading out. It's been around for, let's say, 100 years, and it's coming off or fading out and all that good stuff. So I'll go back and do a light sanding on it. I might sand extra where we see the line here, do a little extra sanding there, just kind of give it a vintagey feel. And then we'll go back over it with our weathered wood glaze to give it a more vintage vibe. Now I'll flip it around for you. Let's see. Don't want to, I've had one of these fall off their wheels before, so don't want them to fall off. All right, so you're probably not even going to tell very much, but I can see it. It's a difference for me. So again, like, well, here you can see that there's like a little bit of little lineage, but I'm okay with that. But I've also sanded some areas down where I kind of gave it some more bare spots. Could have given this a bare spot, but I didn't care. I like that vintagey feel. It's like, oh, that was a new piece of wallpaper. But I also have my glazing in here on the whole thing. So like I said, it's real subtle. So it's not as fresh and white and vibrant, angelic. It's got like a little hit of the weathered wood on it. So it's a little subtle. And I went around the edges here and just kind of gave it that weathered wood. And if I feel like it needs a little bit more tomorrow, I'll add more tomorrow. So I'm pretty excited with the piece. I may get excited and put something like, oh, there goes the leg. See, told you guys. All right, so I might do some, I don't know, this piece was kind of calling for some French gold, but I don't know where we're going to put that yet. It might go around this corner. We'll see. I'm not sure. These kind of progress as I go along, and I'm happy with how it's coming along now. It's very pretty, and like it is like a little Wedgwood plate. I like it. Happy painting, and I will see you next time.